Hello everybody and welcome to the Vocal Advancement Podcast. I am your host Tom and I'm joined by my lovely co-host Heather.
Salam.
Hello.
Hello.
You notice I never repeat it back to you unless I'm confident that I can actually say it.
Well, I'm never confident I'm pronouncing it correctly. That was apparently the Azerbaijani version of hello. Although I think, I was going to say, I think there's a few countries in that part of the world that might also use salam to say hello. I'm sure our listeners would be able to tell us. Yes.
Yeah. So we'll be working our way through the Eurovision countries then.
Well, yes, I was just saying to Tom before we started recording that I'm very excited because I've got tickets to go and see one of the semi-finals of the Eurovision Song Contest. Which, because it's happening just up the road from me in Liverpool, which is like about an hour away from where I live.
So you wouldn't even have to pay for a hotel?
Well, no, I am paying for a hotel so that we can get drunkard. And stumble back to our hotel, because it'll be quite late. It doesn't start till 8 p.m.
It goes on for a while.
So, yeah, it goes on for a while. So rather than staying sober and then trying to drive home afterwards, we thought we'd stay over.
That makes sense.
Yeah, why not?
I'll watch for you on the telly. I'll look for Sparkly Heather.
Yes.
Duncan Sparkly Heather.
Yes, that's right. I'll wave to you. The camera's
Carry
come
flag,
my way.
hey, podcast.
Now, obviously, anybody listening to this from outside of Europe won't have a clue what we're going on about. Or the Australians might, because Australia now take part in the Eurovision Song Contest.
They do, yeah.
It's a fabulous, humongous televised song competition where most of the countries in Europe take part and they all send a song in.
Yeah.
And for some reason now Australia are also part of the Eurovision Song Contest.
I know.
Yeah.
Not quite sure why.
And neither am I. And nobody really knows, but we're all quite happy about it because, you know, why not? They enter into the spirit of it.
Yeah, I think they do. They do it justice. They get into the Eurovision.
Yeah.
It's very camp and very
It's very camp. It is incredibly camp, over the top, and so I was saying I bought myself some nice sparkly trousers to wear because you can't just go to Eurovision dressed in just a pair of jeans and a top. It just doesn't wash.
No. It's got to stand out in the crowd.
That's it.
Although the US, did they not do something now like that but it's not like world, it's like from all the states in the US they have like the US state competition, I believe.
Possibly. Now, see, I have had, in the past, several of our master teachers staying at my house when Eurovision has been on, and they have been made to join in. These poor Americans and Canadians who come over here, and I go, right, here's a score sheet.
Oh, okay.
Take it very seriously in my household. Everyone has to score the songs. Yeah, so some of our master teachers will also be, quite understanding of what Eurovision is, having watched it with me one year.
Yeah, I'm afraid we don't really watch it, but last year we did tune in to see the scoring because of the UK's entry.
The UK
and then we're
did very
watching
well last year.
We thought we had tuned into a parallel universe, because the UK historically is nil points.
Yes,
because nobody likes us,
especially since Brexit.
But last year they liked us.
Yes. Well, they liked Sam, to be fair.
Yeah.
Our entry.
Understandably.
Very friendly, and he very much entered into the spirit of it.
He did, with his sparkly jumpsuit thing.
Yeah. It was a good
He
song.
did a good job. It was a good song.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this year's song's going to be quite as good, but we'll see.
I can't even say I've even heard of it. I know who's singing it because I saw the article, but I have no idea.
It's one of those songs that I feel grows on you. The more you hear it, the more you're like, oh, actually, it's quite catchy.
Well, it's catchy enough to get us out of nil points.
But we'll see.
We might get some pity points because we're hosting it as well.
Well, we are, but we're hosting it on behalf of the Ukraine because Ukraine won last year, and obviously they can't host it this year for obvious reasons. So the UK is hosting because we came second and because we spend an awful lot of money on the competitions. So the combination of those two things meant that we've ended up hosting it this year. So, But
it's going to be good. It was almost nearly in Glasgow as well, actually. Because
I know.
Glasgow came second, didn't it? It was between Liverpool and Glasgow.
Yes. And Glasgow's bit further away from me, so I'm glad it ended up in Liverpool.
Well, I'm glad I ended up in Liverpool as well, because I had tickets for Celine Dion that would be rescheduled if Eurovision came up to Glasgow. For a concert that's been rescheduled like 5 times, but it's been rescheduled again because of the issues that she's having. So it could have came if it wanted to.
One of those things, isn't it?
I know. C'est la vie.
C'est la vie. So, what are we talking about today, Tom?
Well, today's a very special episode. IVA is celebrating its 10th birthday in 2 days' time at the time of recording this. So we're doing a special 10th anniversary episode to commemorate IVA's last 10 years and the next 10 to however long.
Can you believe it has been 10 years?
This grey hair says yes, it's been 10 years.
It's one of those where it's one of those where it feels like it was only yesterday, but it also feels like it was 100 years ago, kind of at the same time. Yeah. Yes,
that's kind of a very nice sum up of how IVA feels sometimes, but it's kind of a blur, because we've been doing the 10 days of IVA. It's very Christmassy feeling, but the 10 days of IVA on Instagram, and I've been reminiscing and sharing everybody's memories on Reels every day, and so sitting thinking when was 2014? What did we do? What happened then?
What happened that year?
Trying to remember desperately. And it's funny because people have random memories over the years, and then we're always like, are you sure that was 2015? Was that not 2016? Are you sure? And so it becomes, well, do you remember that time we went to The Hague? Don't know what year it was, but we went to The Hague.
But we went there. Definitely did it at some point in our lives, yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's one of those things, when you've done so many things in the space of that time, Every year in IVA, there's not a quiet moment.
No, it's constant and it's exciting.
Yeah.
But, that first year was a bit of an emotional roller coaster, wasn't it? It was the end of one thing, but the beginning of another, and so there was a kind of a sense of oh, what a shame one thing was coming to an end, but then at the same time, this is really quite exciting that IVA is beginning, and this could be something really special.
Yeah, there wasn't even time to process it. I don't really think it fully sunk in until about 2 or 3 months afterwards, and then suddenly it was oh yeah, that last era, end of an era with the previous stuff.
Yeah.
And then, because it was we had to hit the ground running, didn't we, when we started IVA?
Absolutely. I remember I'd spent 2 or 3 days solidly on the phone to people from, within the organisation, on the phone to them, kind of explaining what was happening and what we were doing. And, it was a heavy few days just kind of touching base with all these people and explaining what was happening and what IVA was, what our plans were. And, we had to bring those plans together pretty quick, smartish, because people were ready to just, jump on board. Everyone was very supportive of the idea and what we were doing, and couldn't wait to get in there and get started, which meant we had to have something put together in 5 minutes.
Yes, I do remember there was an awful lot of very long days for about 6 weeks between one ending and the next one starting. Because we actually started, so we launched officially the 29th of April, but we actually started working on it, I think it was the second week of March.
Yeah.
The original 10 of us started putting things together in place when, it became apparent that we were all going to end up leaving our previous place of existence. What should we call that?
Place of existence.
I can't think of something.
So if anybody's listening and doesn't quite understand the backstory, so the 10 of us who founded IVA, we were part of a previous organisation, and just due to circumstances beyond our control, that was not going to continue on the way we wanted it to continue on. And so the decision was made that the best thing to do would be to set up something new.
Yeah.
And so there were certain elements that we could bring with us of things, our experiences that we had used before, that we could go, okay, this would work. And there were certain things that we knew we didn't want to repeat. So there were certain things that we knew we wanted to try and find a better way of doing stuff. To suddenly set up a whole new training program in the space of basically a month, that was quite an undertaking. Hey, Tom.
It was, yes. I do remember 16 to 18 hour days, 6 days a week for quite a few weeks, and running on adrenaline during that time as just everything else was put on pause to try and get everything working, because and I mentioned this in the first video, but it wasn't just like the fact that we were putting together education and requirements and structuring all that. It was like an actual business, so legal, accounting, all the things that you need to have, run legally internationally, and branding and naming. And, it's one thing when you're on your own naming a business, like it takes forever. But when you got 10 people all together,
all got their opinion on the matter, yeah. And
all have their say in the brand, it's like, because we were started off as the International Institute for Vocal Advancement.
We did, didn't we?
I'd
almost forgotten that. Yes.
I remember that, because we had logos done, and then somebody was in a board meeting was like, maybe we should drop the International, because it's a bit of a mouthful. After we had just spent like 3 weeks working on logos, and you're like, okay.
But it worked out for the best. That worked out for the best. I think IVA is, Institute for Vocal Advancement. That's plenty. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we landed where we were just fine, but it's always that way, isn't it?
I know.
Just as you think you're nearing the end, you're like, oh,
someone else has got an opinion, yeah. But we had, quite the dream team with you and your, kind of IT skills and knowledge on that side of things. And then we had Andreas, who was a lawyer.
Yeah.
So he had all the legal knowledge. There was some really important people, and obviously Corey, who had done all the administration work previously. Her never sleeping was quite useful.
4 a.m. replying to emails for people.
Yeah. We had the skill set on the team to be able to put things together. And obviously it worked out quite nicely.
Yeah, we're still here after 10 years.
Absolutely. Stronger than ever.
Yeah. But we have had, ups and downs. I think it's fair to say any business has ups and downs over an extended period of time. Mm-hmm. And we've had our ups and downs, over 10 years. We've had board members leave us. We've lost board members, sadly. We've had teachers come and join us. We've had teachers leave us, as people kind of outgrow things and move on. But,
move on. Mm-hmm.
We still have this kind of core group of people that have been with us since the very start, that are just, loyal. They work with us, they help us, support us, and contribute to the business and things. So I think it's amazing still to have a core. It's such a big core.
Yeah. Of
people still here after 10 years.
That's true. Yeah. So must be doing something right.
Testament to how fabulous we are.
Well, obviously, sweetie darling.
No. That's a given.
I think it's important that, we continue to try and move with the times. That was one of the things when we first set it up. We were like, we need to move forward a bit, because some of the things that we'd been doing previously felt a bit stagnated. Felt like we hadn't moved forward for a while. So we made that step forward when we set up IVA in the first few years, and we were figuring out, how did we want to move things forward? What did we want to do that we hadn't done previously? And right to the current day, we've just launched these new courses, haven't we, Tom? So it's...
We have, yeah, which was probably one of the biggest changes. If you forget the actual content, structurally, that's probably one of the biggest changes we've made recently, moving away from a 10-year program to a 3-year program.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was scary at first when we started discussing it. But again, it was one of the things needed to move with the times, because the way that we started off just didn't work anymore. People just didn't have the patience or the attention spans to be 10 years of courses. And so That was a lot of hard work.
Yes.
There's
But
a theme here, are you noticing?
Yeah. Not
Hard
afraid
work.
of a bit of work. Not afraid of a bit of
Yeah.
work. Yeah. But it's important to do. It's important to do that sort of thing. It's important to make sure that you don't stagnate, and that you don't just tread water. That you are looking for opportunities to get better all the time.
Exactly. And I think what I like about the IVA is the fact that in the old place that we were, there was a lot of things that we couldn't do because, it wasn't our business. You kind of had to run how the business wanted to be run. Whereas here, like, we can have a grown-up adult conversation, like, this isn't working, or, this needs to be updated because this knowledge or this delivery method is, 5 years out of date. So you can have that conversation. You can draw on expertise from within the group and from without the group, like externally. Yeah. And then move forward in a way that's the most beneficial for the teachers and the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no temper tantrums or well, there's a few tears and temper tantrums.
Don't know about that.
Not as much. We're all getting too old for it. Now we're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, we're happy.
I know.
No, I know. I've been watching the videos that you've filmed, and just reminds you of how many international conferences we've had over the years.
I know.
Just phenomenal conferences with all these teachers, and I'm so looking forward. After watching this video, I'm so looking forward to next year when we can do it in person again.
And next year's IVACon 10.
Wow.
I know, 10 years, 10 years of IVA this year, 10 years of conference next year.
I love it. Yeah, because in the first year we didn't do a full conference. We did a couple of mini conferences because I hosted one at my studio here. And my favourite memory of that is that you were like, right, we need somewhere to host like a dinner or something. So I was like, oh, okay, right. Well, obviously, my teaching studio is just a teaching studio, so I don't have room to put on dinner for everybody here. But just up the road, there's like a little hotel. So I got in contact with them, and they did a dinner for us. But when we got there, I think there'd been like a wedding or something the day before. And they'd left all the flowers up and everything. And the kind of the lectern that, you'd use for making a speech, there was like floral displays still on it. And we were like, oh, it's pretty, it's fine, leave it. But all the photographs we got, because Spencer got up to make a speech, and all of it just looks like he's like, looks like he's like the priest or something at a wedding.
Oh, I had forgotten about that. Oh. I remember that now, yes.
It just tickled me. He looked like he was about to, marry someone. Really, he was just making a speech to welcome everyone to the conference.
That was fun because so Stephanie and Andreas came across and Spencer came from Canada, but then we had the other master teachers on Zoom. Well, in fact, Zoom didn't exist back then.
No, it was all Skype.
Skype and Fuse, I think it was called Fuse.
Oh yeah, forgot about that one.
And I think we were their biggest customer at the time. And I remember them Skyping in, and then I remember Natalie Weiss Skyped in. Do you remember?
Yes,
She was teaching riffs and runs over Skype or whatever it was.
That's right.
And I remember like somebody getting up to sing a riff, and we were like, "Oh, that's a bit hard for this person." And we kind of struggled a little bit. But it was still, we were all kind of like, oh, it's Natalie Weiss, you know, because there was no TikTok or really that. Well, there was no TikTok back then, so it was like YouTube, and everybody's like, oh, Natalie Weiss. It was quite a big deal.
It was, yeah. Celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun. But it was because obviously we mostly had teachers from Europe come over. We had teachers from like France and Ireland and Spain, and I'm trying to think where else obviously Germany and
teachers
Austria.
Teachers from Germany and Italy as well.
And Italy. Yeah, so a lot of, teachers came over, and those of you who are watching this, you can see my studio behind me, but we squeezed, I can't tell you how many teachers we squeezed into this room
Sitting on people's
here.
knees.
They were. It was like, how many chairs can I pack into this one room so that we could all be in here to, to learn together? And I've got another room as well. So yes, exactly. It was like, where can I? I'll stand at the back.
No chairs for the staff. Just sit on the floor, Tom.
Yes, and then when we did do a bigger class, I hired a local theatre to use for the larger masterclass and things. But it was, it was fun. It was a good way to kind of get things moving. Ready for our first proper conference, which was in the sunnier climes of California.
Well, we did as well, though. Don't forget, we did like the same, but in Utah a month later.
Yes.
And we had Spencer came again, and we had the American MTs, so Kathy, Linda, and Jeffrey all came. And I remember sitting in the board meeting, and we were talking about how it was going to work, and they were really worried about all the online stuff. And then Corey was like, "Well, Tom, you could just go to Utah." And I was like, "I'll go to Utah. Yes, I'll go. Are you paying?" I'll go. So I got a 5-day trip to Utah.
Brilliant.
To run the conference. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and it was great. And we had Linda's studio. So Linda had like a similar idea to yours, like a big main room with she has like a raised platform for a stage, and then she has like smaller teaching rooms. I remember doing a Costco run, like to buy snacks, like American Costco. And it was just amazing. It was like all these massive boxes of things, and you're like, let's get 48 of that and 2 dozen of this.
My
and
word. Sounds
it was
dangerous.
lots of fun. It was dangerous and expensive. You're like, ooh, I'm hungry.
Well, you see, these conferences, they really are the kind of the highlights of the year, because that's when, the real community is built, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's where people really start to... So, yeah, most of my memories of conferences throughout the year are of sitting in the bar after hours and singing karaoke.
That was a common theme in my videos as well, karaoke.
Yeah, because that's what happens. I can't tell you how many of the classes turned into how to handle swollen hungover chords today. Because every teacher who volunteers to get up to sing is like, I've not got much voice today because I didn't get to bed till 4 a.m.
Yes, there was quite a few wild nights.
And that's what we love about it. But there's an awful lot of chat that goes on after hours. The teachers will all go out for dinner after the official classes have ended. And then they're picking each other's brains after hours as well. So there's a lot of learning to be done in the socialising as well as
Do you remember sitting around the fire outside in... it was California, was it? Where was it in California? It was near the Chinese
Anaheim.
restaurant. No. Or maybe it was, actually. It was a DoubleTree, I think, or was it Hilton? Anyway, we were all, I just remember, I think it was the third last night, all sitting around this like outside fireplace, because California is lovely weather and stuff like that. We're sitting around the fireplace just like chewing over the day, and like suddenly song erupted, and then it was just like the next minute there was guitars appeared and everybody just started singing, and all the guests were sitting going, what on earth is going on here?
What's going on out there?
Who are these people?
Well, there's no way you can get that many voice teachers in one place without them all bursting into spontaneous singing somewhere along the way.
Oh, a funny story as well. I forgot to put this into the 2018 video, but when we were in Edinburgh, we were on the Royal Mile, and the hotel was like right on the corner of the Royal Mile, so it's kind of prime position. And there is a very popular Irish bar just right across the road, and they do like, Irish bars like that, they have like live music, guy with a guitar sitting in the corner singing while the folks are drinking. And I do remember one in the mornings, I can't remember what night it was, but the big group of teachers had gone from like all around the world, all these teachers went into the bar, this poor guy in the corner open, like sing me the guitar, singing his song, and they're like, oh, can we sing with you, duet? Next minute, totally just take over the bar, like singing, giving him singing lessons, fixing his voice, took over his singing, stole his guitar, completely took over the entire bar.
I was going to say, I remember a very similar thing happening in one of the Californian hotels. Where did we go that was a little bit further south?
San Diego.
San Diego, that's where it was. Yes, in the hotel in San Diego, the hotel had a singer in the... they had like an outside patio sort of area. Mm-hmm. And one night, we'd been out for dinner, we'd get back, and this singer on... well, he didn't sing for very long. He was sat there with his guitar, and then before you know it, people were requesting songs. And he just handed over the mic to all of us lot. I think I got up and sung Valerie by Amy Winehouse. I'm like, you know Valerie? Yeah, it's a crowd pleaser. Yeah. It was, again, it was, yeah.
I missed that. I don't think I wasn't there that night for that one.
You'd probably gone to bed.
Probably. 6 a.m. starts. That's the thing. You guys were all going to bed as we were getting out of bed to run the conference. I think we got the wrong end of the stick.
I bet you did. My brain was always like, am I teaching tomorrow? No, that's okay then. I can drink tonight.
I do. I remember that because, they like to get up early. And the first couple of years I was like, oh, I'm not quite a morning person. But then started to appreciate, actually, it was quite good to get up and be done by like 8 o'clock with your breakfast and stuff, because then you didn't have to rush and discover that half the stuff didn't work. Mm-hmm. But I do distinctly remember, you start in the first morning and you're all excited and raring to go, and it's like breakfast at 6. And then by the time you get to the Friday and, you're going to bed, what time for breakfast in the morning? 7. Oh, can we not make it like 7:45? It's the last day. They'll all be sleeping and hungover from karaoke. And it just gets later and later, and then you wake up on the Saturday morning after it and you're like, oh, it's 8 o'clock, crap, and then you're like, oh no, it's finished.
Oh, it's fine, it's all good.
Yeah, I remember doing that in Las Vegas when we were there in the hotel that flooded, waking up on Saturday morning in a blind panic thinking I had slept in, and it was like, no, it's over,
it's all done. You can relax.
We're going shopping.
Oh, see, and that's always the good thing as well with one of the international conferences, is that a lot of the people who are coming internationally to wherever it is, they will always tie in a bit of vacation time.
Oh, yeah.
Alongside it. Obviously when we had it in Edinburgh that time, there was a lot of people up at the castle the day after conference.
Yeah, it was busy.
It was, because I wandered up to the castle, bumped into half of the teachers up there. Oh, this is the place to be the day after conference. Get to explore Edinburgh Castle.
Whereas we were all just like lying in a heap in the hotel because we, lived in Edinburgh, so we'd be like, oh, we've seen it, it's fine. It will still be there next week.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Whereas when we're in California, you get up at like 7 on the Saturday morning because you're going to Disneyland.
I was going to say, I've got a picture somewhere I found of you just at the entrance of Disneyland. I think it was you taking a picture of my daughter Elsie, because she was like less than 1. And so my husband had come over at the end of the conference, and we went to Disneyland. We bumped into you on the way in, and I've got a picture of you taking a picture of Elsie in the pushchair. I'm thinking, we need to find your picture of that. We can match the two together.
That'd be my phone somewhere, yeah.
Take it from both angles. Yeah, that was only so I can tell my daughter now, you've already been to Disneyland in California. Don't need to take you again. You've been there.
Yeah, because there was a group of us. We were with Sue and Shar and Laura, and then we bumped into Spencer and a group, and they were like, oh, we're going to, because there's a part of Disneyland where they serve alcohol. It's the only part of the park where they serve alcohol in like the wine country section of California.
Okay.
But you've got to have a meal. But when you go for the meal in this restaurant, you get tickets for the nighttime light laser and fireworks show and wine.
Nice.
So we walked in, like, can we get a table for like 35? Like, all of us. I mean, literally, it was like the most international thing you've seen. Like, it was like literally every country was represented at this table for around the world as we sat and had this like 3-course meal and drinks, and it was amazing, like singing Disneyland, drinking wine, having this wonderful food. And then Spencer's like, oh, the last Frozen show's on in 15 minutes, like, it's so funny, you really have to go and see it. So we had to run from wherever that was to the other park at California to see the Frozen show.
And
like,
was it
full
good?
Of food. It was really funny.
Was
it
good?
Was worth it. Yeah, it was worth it. But we got there, we're all like, oh my god, to die. It was just, but I just, and when I was recording the video, that was the first thing that came to my head. Oh, we drank wine in Disneyland and then had to run to see the Frozen show.
I do promise our conferences do have some, kind of vocal education involved somewhere along the way.
A little bit.
It's not just us getting drunk. It's just that's the bit we remember.
There's lots of letting off steam, shall we say.
There is a lot of letting off steam, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, because we're there to learn, but you're also there, like, these people are our friends, colleagues, that people we've known for years and worked together for years. And so, like, you just want to sit down and have a small glass of wine or 4 and catch up.
Yeah. And network, I suppose. A lot of these teachers are meeting each other for the first time. There's some of us who've been time and time again, but then there are, every year, there's a whole host of teachers. It's the first time they've been to one of our conferences. And so they're getting to know everybody. And, when you're a creative person yourself, and then you get stuck in a room full of other creatives, it's liberating. I love it. You vibe off the fact that everybody's from that same creative world, because you don't always get that in your own little individual worlds as much. So, kind of being surrounded by all of these phenomenally talented people, teachers, singers, performers, musicians, that's why that becomes the highlight. When you're doing your Instagram reels, every single year you're talking about the conference that year, is because that is the highlight of the year.
It does. It's like, it's the show point of our education year. And like, I was thinking there while you were talking, because a lot of us in the places where we work with our businesses and studios and that, like, we find ourselves in situations where other singing teachers don't really want to talk to you because it's all very competitive, and they don't want to steal their students and stuff, or their secrets that they have. And so, like, you don't have a lot of contact with other singing teachers in your area. So when you get into that room with all these singing teachers who are, like, willing and open to talk about stuff, and, like, come on, let's go and find a piano and let's show you how to do this kind of thing. Like, I remember that the first time I ever went to conference, I was just, like, so blown away by how generous and open people were with their knowledge and experience. And, like, hey, let me show you kind of thing. Whereas you come home and folk are like, I'm not even going to acknowledge that you exist because you're competition.
Yeah, it is. It's another world.
And I think things are getting better these days with the
there's
dawning of
definitely
the
more
internet.
Forums and things, that allow a bit more kind of knowledge sharing. But it's always great to kind of get to talk to people and pick each other's brains, because everyone's got experiences that you can learn from. It doesn't matter whether you're the most experienced teacher in the room or a complete beginner teacher. Everyone brings something to the table, and you can learn stuff from everybody. It's, never kind of ignore the possibility that you could learn something from somebody. Because
that reminds me, talking about the previous place of existence. I remember going to my first and only conference with them. And, like, sitting in a room, and I was a level 1 teacher with, like, pre-certs or whatever they were called. Yeah. I remember feeling morally superior to these people as a level 1, and they were just lowly student teachers.
A whole 1 year more experience. Yeah.
I know. And then speaking to one of the guys, and he'd, like, been teaching for 25 years and was, like, almost master teacher level, and I'm like, okay, I know nothing. But we don't have that in IVA, like you say. Like, we recognize everybody has something to bring to the table from their own perspective.
Yeah.
And it's just different degrees of experience and ways of looking at things.
That's it. And we do often have teachers who sign up to train with us who have got 25 years of experience teaching. They're just ready to learn some new tools and new tricks to use in their teaching. So it's not just that the people who are starting out on our training are complete beginners when it comes to teaching. They're just... And
we learn from them as well, don't we?
Exactly,
like, they come in and do their thing, and we're like, oh, that's a great way to phrase that or approach that scenario. Like, and so we as experienced teachers learn from these people too. So it's one thing, and I remember these conversations vividly. Like, we were all about, you never stop learning. Nobody knows everything. Like, that's the kind of foundation that IVA was always built on. No, we don't know it all, but we're open to it. And I think, I don't know what you feel, but I think we've kind of retained that over the years.
I think so. I think, if anything, we've gotten better at that over the years. We get more guest speakers in than ever before now, and we have more open debates about what's going on in the vocal research world, and what we've seen other people doing, and whether that might be a useful thing to add or not. There are far more open conversations about that sort of thing, which I think is a good thing, because if the more closed you are to outside information, the more people feel like they're not getting what they want from us as a business, and they go elsewhere. Now, if we can bring them all that information, then they don't need to go elsewhere. They can get that information from us, and that should be our job, is to share the information that's out there.
Especially, I think, as well, it's good when we can translate the information, so this person's talking about this. What that means in terms of how we teach and think this is how you apply that knowledge to this, to our tools and logic. And I think that's a really great tool, because it allows us to have these conversations with these people and assimilate their knowledge. It sounds like the Borg from Star Trek. We assimilate their knowledge into the collective.
But that's it.
Yeah. And it's good as well, though, because we've been around for quite a while now, and because, like you said, of these forums with different voice teachers, I think a lot of these people that are in the kind of vocal science field and doing all that kind of work, they're starting to take us more seriously. Yeah. Because we're more open to them and what they've got to say. But, and you've seen this when we have guest speakers come into conference or these webinars, like, they're interested in what we're doing. Like, they want to know about us and what we're doing and how we think and how we attack things and all that kind of stuff. And so it turns into this really lovely, like, two-way relationship with these people, where they, they share, we share, and then, we go off and prospectively assimilate it into our own teaching experiences.
Yeah. And that's
that
so
sounds
important.
like a Miss World answer, like that. And world peace.
I'd love for that to happen too, please.
Yes, that would be nice as well. We could sing our way to it.
We will continue to sing our way to world peace.
So I'm curious then. We've talked a lot about what's happened in the past, but I'm curious as to what maybe you're looking forward to in the next 10 years of IVA.
Oh, my word.
I know, put you on the spot.
I know. Well, I'm excited to see how these new courses develop and the feedback we get from the people on these courses. And I'm excited to look into offering more stuff, more education, more training in more areas, which I think is on the cards for us. So, I think that onwards and upwards. And like I say, I'm really excited to get back to in-person gatherings, to maybe more in-person events, and really start to kind of build back that human connection that people have kind of lacked a little bit through all the COVID times. I think we are ready and willing to get back on that sort of thing, for sure.
Okay, I think that first morning at our next conference, when we're in person, will be just like euphoric celebration of, that we made it through all of that. We're still all here together. So I think there'll be a lot of emotion at that conference when we come together again.
Yeah, I think it will be a good time.
Yes. Lots of singing and drinking. And laughing.
And laughing.
Food.
And maybe a bit of education thrown in there, just to make it official and tax deductible.
No, I was just going to say that. So it's a business expense. Can't wait.
But what about you then, Tom? What are the things you're looking forward to most?
See, my perspective has kind of changed slightly. So, like, as I took over as the CEO last year, like, my perspective is now, like, what what can we do with the business now to support the stuff that you're talking about? So how can we make the business more efficient? How can we bring in more people to support the teachers, then the delivery of the education in these courses much better? So like, I'm excited about new team members that are coming in to do things. And, you know, recently we've been working with social media consultant and kind of building strategies for how to kind of, you know, because we've kind of dabbled in social media over the years, but now we're like really kind of consistently hitting it and putting our message out. So I'm kind of excited to see what that will bring and what connections that will create for us with people. As you know, people that have never heard from us are like,
absolutely.
oh, who are these people? You know, somebody sent me a Reddit thread a couple of weeks ago, in fact, a couple of months ago, and it was like they were talking about singing teachers on TikTok, and they're like, who are all these IVA teachers on TikTok? Like the top 15 IVA teachers on TikTok, top 15 singing teachers on TikTok, like 9 of them were IVA teachers with like followings of like 100,000 plus. And they're like, who are these people? And I'm like, this is great. This is exactly what we want as a business, you know? Because folk are curious. They're like, who are they? What are they doing? What, like, you know, is it a cult?
And they should be talking about us because we do great things.
Yeah.
You know, we do. We offer some really, really valuable training. I can't tell you how valuable the training is that we offer. And how many voice teachers are out there not realising that they wish they could have gone through our training. Genuinely. You know, how many, you know, unanswered questions could be answered through, you know, doing the training that we offer. So I think it's incredibly special because one of the things that I feel like we do really well is the practical training. You know, it's the ear training. I actually taught a lesson the other day that I recorded for observation for our teachers to observe. And I taught a friend of mine she's a voice teacher, but she's not been through our training. And she was like, you've got magic ears, she said to me at the end. She's like, I can't believe your magic ears, that you could hear that. I'm like, that's because all of the training that I've been through has been so practical. It's been training of my ears so that I can identify exactly what's going on in people's voices. Whereas for a lot of voice teachers out there, the majority of the training they've been through has been very theoretical, which is useful stuff too. I'm not putting that down at all. But the element they've lacked is that practical hands-on approach that I think is what we do best.
Oh yeah, like talking about the lesson observations when I was preparing for my advanced panel test, like my preparation was listening to like 50 hours of private lessons of people teaching and just being like, what do I hear? What do I think it is? Okay, now what did they say it was? And trying to marry up the two. And that was such an amazing development for my year as a teacher, because then I would go back to students that I hadn't taught for a while and be like, oh, I never noticed that before in your voice because my ear wasn't developed enough.
That's it. And
we do so many of these things at our conferences, you know, practical, interactive based training, but even like silly things. And I always was like, you know, it just makes sense to me. Like, I'm going to teach a lesson, but I'm going to talk out loud while I'm teaching this lesson and tell you what I'm doing and what I'm thinking. And like, that to me is common sense, but other people are like, you know, mind blown because like somebody's saying like, right, I heard this on this note and this was what happened, so I'm going to give them this exercise because of this. And it's like, that's like revolutionary to some people when they see us doing it. I'm like, but we take it for granted because we've done it
because
for years.
We do it all the time and that's just what we do. I know.
And it's great because being able to just... Because I think when I do it and I'm talking out loud, it also helps me as a teacher to think about how I'm describing it and what the words I'm using are when I'm thinking about, all right, okay, well, I've got to say this in a way that these teachers will understand. That really helps me as a teacher because it helps me to be more concise. It helps me to really focus on what it is that I hear and the words that I use to describe it. So, yeah, terrifying to do it at first, but...
but good to put yourself on the spot like that, you know. Again, that's how you get better.
And that's the thing, though, because our teachers are so wonderful. Like, they volunteer in their droves at conference. I'll teach, I'll sing, I'll be this. And, like, you know, we end up with these massive lists of teachers that are desperate to volunteer and sing. And they get up and they do it, and they do it, and they do it over and over again, putting themselves out there, being, you know, quite vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Often. But they do it because they know the benefit of it for not only them but for the other people.
For everybody. And
Yeah.
you know, there is never any judgment, is there? Let's face
No.
it. You know, you never sit there and watch somebody get up to volunteer, make a mistake. You're not sitting there going, "Oh well, they've
tat.
screwed that up, something rotten." You don't. You sit there and you're going, "Oh, I'd have done the same thing.
Yeah,
I'd have made that same mistake."
absolutely.
And you feel for them and you're like, "I'm really glad you made that mistake because I would have made that mistake, and now we've both learned not to make that mistake."
Or you're like, high five, we're flip buddies.
Yeah. It's good to recognise that nobody's perfect and there's always things you can learn, there's always ways you can improve.
Absolutely. And that's just, that kind of ring fences us very nicely back to kind of why we started IVA, because as I said, you know, nobody knows everything. There's always space to learn new things, new ways to do things, new ways to communicate, you know. And that's hopefully what we'll be doing for the next 10 years as we learn new things and new ways to communicate
Absolutely.
and deliver. Because who knows just what I mean, like, can you imagine in 5 years, like, we'll have virtual reality private lesson observations. Or sitting with our goggles on.
Yeah, we'll see about that one.
You'd be like sitting at your piano doing assessments. Hey Siri, what was that voice tendency? I heard. Never know.
Don't.
Alexa's listening.
I was going to say, Alexa will be taking my job if you start.
Heather, are you sure that was a gradual flip? I heard.
Oh, that's a
We
scary
laugh, but
prospect,
you never
isn't
know.
it?
You never know. I mean, like, there are singing apps out there that know the vowel that you're singing, and like, if you're on pitch, if you're under pitch, if your vibrato's right or wrong, like, it's only a matter of time before the machines take over.
I'd like to think that the machines can't mimic the human connection, but maybe they can.
Well, in 10 years' time, we might be having
I
this
was going to
conversation.
say, we'll have to do this again in 10 years' time and see.
Be an episode like 9,000,004.
Yeah, quite.
IVA 20. I have no hair.
Oh, dear me.
It's fun, though. We laugh.
We do laugh.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
If you're listening and you are, reminiscing on your favourite moments from the past 10 years of IVA, you should get in touch with us. Let us know. We'd love to
Yeah.
hear your stories as well of the things, the things you got up to in conference or at local events, and, what were your fondest memories and...
Or any funny videos of the MT embarrassing themselves. We always like those.
Yes, we do indeed. Funny pictures.
It's been a while since Spencer's boy band video came out at conference. We think we need to resurrect that in the opening session. Spencer in his floppy fringe and his big oversized leather jacket in the 90s.
I love that.
I know. That
Yeah.
video got so many hits on
I was gonna
YouTube
say-
when
I
IVA
was gonna
started.
say, everyone was doing the Running Man after that. Yeah. So yeah, what's the best way for them to share things like that with us, Tom?
Well, we've been running all these posts on Instagram using the hashtag IVA10, and on the 1st of May, which will be after this episode comes out, all of our teachers are going to be sharing their memories and stories on Instagram as well. So the best thing to do is go to Instagram and search for IVA10, and we'll put a link in the show notes as well. And you can browse through all the things that have been posted and see everybody's memories and stories that they're sharing. And if you want to email us your memories, drop an email to support@vocaladvancement.com and, send the pictures or videos through that, and we'll happily share them on our social media as well with everybody so they can see your memories.
I'm looking forward to seeing all those
I know.
old pictures coming up.
Oh, the old embarrassing ones. Like, I have a habit of, like, because we're working technically whilst we're at the conference. So, like, you're not always aware of what you're actually doing or what's going on around you, because you're like, oh, the Zoom link's not working, or oh, the handouts are missing, or something like that. And so there's all these pictures of me with, like, fraught faces when something is broken.
I was going to say, to be fair, you were the person who had to put out all the fires. So yes.
Do you remember the first conference we did in 2014, and some idiot had the bright idea that we were going to live stream it around the world? And like there was one of me and 3 rooms, and the rooms were on 3 different floors of the hotel. And on that first session, I'm just like calmly sitting like thing, and it gets like 19 messages. This isn't working. I'm like running up and down stairs in the hotel. I think I must have lost about 2 stone in that week from running around constantly because everything just broke.
Because, sounded easier than it was.
Yeah. The idea was me, by the way.
I was going to say.
Yes, we learned very quickly that was not the way
did.
to do things.
No. But
Thankfully, we have a fabulous team now that
I was
helps.
going to say, we've got relatively smooth running now. No, kind of generally what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. Or at least I think we do. I'm not involved in any of that. That's what we...
Oh, we do. We have it down to fine art now. But I was saying this to the team the other day in our last meeting. I was like, it's been a while since we've done it in person. We're going to be a bit rusty.
Oh, it'll be like riding a bike. It'll come just flooding back as soon as you get going.
All the bad memories. Like,
All the bad memories.
At least I'm not far from my house. If I forget anything, I can just hop in the car. It's like a 10-minute drive.
Yeah.
It's not like you're on a plane in the middle of California and you've left like the hard drive with everything at home. Oopsie.
Oops.
Emailing your partner. Can you please find the hard drive and can you please email it to me? I can't remember the password.
Oh, wow. Stress.
I know. Well, anywho, hopefully that's been an enjoyable little walk down memory lane, at least for us, if not for anybody else.
And get in touch. Share your memories. And we'd love to see them all.
Absolutely. So normal service will resume with our next episode because we've kind of butted in between episodes. Normal will be resumed with Gerald White in our next episode.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks. And see you in 10 years' time.